Hello, my name is AidanB, and I'm here to talk about the Great Southern Reef and the kelp forest destruction that is currently taking place. So what is kelp? So kelp is a large brown algae that grows in shallow waters near the coast. They are growing these long stems that are quite eerie when you're under there, but resemble a forest as well. They're very famous on the coast of California, particularly in finding Dory, but they also exist all over the world in temperate zones and along temperate reefs, particularly in the Great Southern Reef along the south of Australia's coast. So not only do they provide habitat and shelter, but they also provide lots of food for these temperate reef zones, which hold a lot of endemic species. So what is the Great Southern Reef? Well, the Great Southern Reef doesn't get nearly as much recognition as its older sibling, the Great Barrier Reef up in the north of Australia, but it is extremely important. So it covers about 71,000 square kilometres of a temperate rocky reef area. It also covers 8,000 kilometres of Australia's coastline, and it's a national park that is part of 5 different states. We've got Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania and New South Wales. With the fishing industry, tourism as well as oil, it provides about $10 billion to the local economy, to the national economy annually. So kelp are actually our silent heroes. So they are very good at absorbing carbon dioxide, and in the emissions crisis that we're currently in, it's extremely important that we keep them around. So kelp forests are actually responsible for about 30% of Australia's carbon dioxide absorption. And aside from that, they also provide habitat for thousands of endemic species and are extremely critical to the health of these temperate reefs. So without them, all these species that are found nowhere else in the world wouldn't be able to survive. However, these forests are disappearing and at an alarming rate. So just in Tasmania alone, they've lost about 95% of their kelp forests and are struggling to preserve the rest that are remaining. The main problem that is happening is due to climate change and rising ocean temperatures, which involve the East Australian current bringing warmer waters down from the tropics, causing warmer climate down in these temperate zones, which is causing all kinds of havoc to the health, as well as bringing in pests and devastation in its wake. So as I said before, tropical waters are coming down the East Australian current, and they're bringing some friends. So we've got species like the parrotfish, which are big competitive fish, are coming in and seeing an abundance of food that is living in a very delicate ecosystem, and they're deciding to stay with where the water's warm and the food is abundant. However, this is causing a massive increase in competition for food, which is leading to other species nearing extinction, as they can't compete with these big, very competitive and territorial fish. Another pest that's coming in are sea urchins. So sea urchins, being very poisonous and deadly, are spawning where these kelp forests are being just eaten and destroyed by the warm waters and fish. They can spawn in extremely large numbers, and once they spawn, they're incredibly difficult and dangerous to get rid of. Once they spawn in an area as well, they suffocate any kelp that is trying to grow. So they will take over an area that's recently been devastated, and any kelp spores that are left will be suffocated by these sea urchins. So extremely dangerous, and they can wipe out whole areas very quickly. So what can we do? So restoration is the plan at the moment, and it's definitely the way to go. So the kelp forest devastation has only been really touched on recently, and it began in 2006, so it's still in its infancy in terms of marine conservation. However, more attention is coming, and it's only increasing. So the plan is at the moment, and it's happening currently, is that healthy kelp spores are being rescued from kelp that is surviving and being safely stored to be used for replanting in protected areas where it can be ensured that they're going to thrive later on. A recent study in California using artificial reef structures was found to be particularly effective, with six reef structures thriving with new kelp structures and creating a whole new ecosystem just within its structure as well. However, these are quite expensive, and so with the reef structure and replanting, to get about a square kilometre of restoration and seedling, it costs about $1,400. So over a large area, the cost really builds up, which is a deterrent at the moment. However, the negative to creating these protected areas so that the kelp forest and the ecosystem could be restored is that it would have a big impact on the fishing and tourism industry. So this is a multi-billion-dollar industry for the local and national economy, which is already dealing with restricted regulations about fishing and diving in the Great Southern Reef. So any extra protected areas where they're not allowed to encroach would definitely have an impact on not only the local economy but the livelihood of these people, as well as the national economy. So together, the tourism, which includes diving and boat tours, and the fishing, which also includes recreational fishing, account for approximately $4 billion worth of income annually for the national government, and any extra protected areas would have a significant impact on this figure. So another major player which has significant impact on the health of the reef but the national economy is oil and gas. So the Great Southern Reef is home to a wide range of rich oil reserves, which are new ones are being constantly found in and around the Great Southern Reef, particularly in the Great Australian Bight, which is just off the South Australian coast, which is part of the Great Southern Reef. Now these areas are consistently being applied to drill and extract oil, which not only has a negative effect on the kelp forest but the whole ecosystem as a whole, with the added pollution as well as the structural integrity of the reef being dramatically compromised with the drilling. It completely devastates the local area and kills off many species when this happens. However, the oil industry brings in about approximately $5 billion a year just off the coast of the Great Southern Reef. So it's a major player, and any extra protected areas, as with the fishing and tourism industry, would have an impact on the national economy if these oil companies can't produce their income. So what are the future plans? So creating protected areas to restore and replant these kelp forests is the way to go if you're thinking about just the health of the reef. These kelp forests are extremely important to the delicate ecosystem, and without them the reef basically wouldn't exist. However, due to the overarching issue of rising ocean temperatures and climate change, a global climate initiative needs to be reinforced to reduce the rising ocean temperature. That includes stopping and preventing any more oil drilling happening in the Great Southern Reef, as well as potentially compensating lost income for local communities that are unable to fish or provide tourism opportunities within these protected areas if these areas can't be found elsewhere. However, funding is also increasing for the restoration of these kelp forests. Tasmania has allocated $2 million to the restoration of their kelp forests, as well as a $40 million grant by the Australian government to the invasive species program for the Great Southern Reef to remove and prevent the sea urchins and parrotfish and other invasive species from causing more damage. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something about the Great Southern Reef and the kelp forests that exist there. Thank you. Thank you for watching.